Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Sorry for the delay. It was a technical problem. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربنا افرغ علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. ربنا افرغ علينا صبرا وتوفنا مسلمين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. وصلى اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. والحمد لله رب العالمين.
So this is Messengership part 6.
Because you didn't go there. How about now? Yeah, there's now. Oh, but you can check.
That's not it.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So the first condition is if you want to understand the reality of anything, don't condition yourself. Just listen to your human qualities freely. But it is not easy, by the way. We have to accept that. Without being conditioned, thinking about anything is not easy, but at least we have to try. For example, if someone says, I don't believe in, let's say, any religion, and then he brings his argument, say, oh, he's an unbeliever, so whatever he says, I will not pay attention to it because he's an unbeliever. Why? Take a free attitude. Okay, let me hear what you say. And judge it. We emphasized on the importance of it. Judge it, judge what this person says, not according to the requirements of your religion. That is very difficult. According to your human qualities, do you really agree or not? Do you really confirm it? Can you really confirm it or not? Feel free. This is difficult, but we have to educate ourselves. It's very difficult. Not only for religious people, it is difficult. For those people who claim to be against religion, is also difficult. But we have to watch out for ourselves, whatever we are. So, the first condition, we talked about it a lot last week, don't assume the attitude of intentional opposition. Now, we talked a lot last week. Intentional opposition. But if you hear something, if it doesn't make sense to you, you oppose. You say, no, it doesn't make sense to me. But not intentional. Intentional means condition yourself. I'm not going to be a religious man. I'm not going to approve what the religious people talk about. And especially nowadays, among the people who claim to be scientists or what, I don't know, philosophers, they say, we are not going to give any reference to anything metaphysical, they say. It means transcendental. Why? Because we can bring something which within the universe into the lab and investigate it. But if someone refers to something else than the universe itself, I cannot bring it into the lab and I cannot study. And as a scientist, I have to take it into lab. But they don't accept logical conclusions. They don't accept logical conclusions. Very simple. If there is an action, there must be an actor. For example, let's say this building is made, it is really quite old, and definitely the first builders of this building must be dead because it is almost 90 or 100 years old building. Now, if I say this building must have a builder, then can I bring the builder into the lab and investigate it? No, sorry, don't refer it. Contradiction, obvious contradiction. Is that? It's obvious contradiction. But logical conclusions, it means they call it actually a priori conclusions. A priori conclusions do not need to be brought into the lab. For example, you saw that something, here is Machine, you know that. It's made. Do you know its maker? No. Can you deny? Can you find it out? And say that, let me see if you, while you are doing it. Yeah? He might have dead. He might have been dead. You cannot see. So what you do, well, although I don't know, I haven't seen the maker making it, but I'm sure there must be a maker. You don't say that this man made it. No, there must be a maker. Do you understand the difference? This is logical conclusion. But if you say, I have seen it, this man made it, it is not only logical conclusion, it is a conclusion which is based on observation. This man is making it, I've seen it, and the people who say that you have to bring it into the lab, then analyze it, they have the right, bring this man, let me see what he's doing, how he's doing. It's right. But not the logical conclusions. Anything empirical must be in the lab. Anything logical must be approved by human conscience as a human being. Is it a contradiction? It is not scientific. It is scientific. That's what I am. I cannot go against myself. Right? So don't assume the attitude of intentional opposition. It means I'm a scientist. I should not take any logical conclusion into account because I only experience the things in the lab, and logical conclusions may not be experienced in the lab. So I will reject it. That's why they say we reject the theological explanations. Metaphysical, they call it. Metaphysical explanations, although I don't agree with the term metaphysics. It doesn't make sense, but it is a long discussion. Or metaphysical, they call it. Metaphysical, it means something not within the universe, according to their definition. They think that if you say that the universe must have a creator, they say this is metaphysical. No. It is my conclusion, logical conclusion. It has nothing to do physical or metaphysical, beyond physical. No, it's a logical conclusion. For example, the builder of this building is not here in dead, right? Is it a metaphysical thing? No, logical conclusion. You know that the bricks cannot make the house. It's so simple, so simple. A conscious being must have arranged them, give them a certain shape as a house, of course. They didn't create it, but they give them a shape according to their capacity. That's what we learn, understand from our experience in this world. So instead of looking at a building, you can look at a tree, an animal. You can say that the bricks cannot make the building, and the particles of the animal cannot make it because they are not conscious beings which have free will to choose, to arrange. Simple? Very simple. That's the conclusion. What the belief says, belief doesn't say that I've seen something which is called God is making the tree. And then, of course, the scientists have every right to say that, okay, let me see it in my lab. Observe it. That is why in our discussion, I prohibit to speak from God's perspective using any language which starts with God. I say, have you seen it? No. Why do you speak then as if I have seen God who is, or while making the universe? It means this. That's why the most nonsensical language which starts with God, whether to prove it, to confirm it, or to deny it. For example, prove it, which starts with starts the sentence with God. Says God has made the universe. This is apparently, claiming that he is believing in God. The other one says, I haven't seen God making the universe. Again, the same thing. Methodologically, both of them are equally wrong. We have to understand this. We have to be clear about it. Why do people confuse? It's a very important point. The scripture, the sacred texts that they call the sacred text, or any text which is ascribed to God as the source of, or as the speaker in the text. The scripture says God created the universe. Right? So what we do, we have, in quote unquote, good faith in the scripture and say, well, the scripture says so. God created the universe, so God created the universe. No. The creator has the right to say that I did it. But you, as the audience or the reader, haven't seen God doing it. You don't have the right to say it, but take the sentence as a guide from the creator for you and investigate it. Is it possible that this thing needs a creator with certain qualities, and it is called God? That's why we have to say there must be a maker, not the maker. You cannot use this language, the maker. You must say, universe must say a maker, must have a maker. Very clear, very simple. A maker means I am not observing it, logically concluding that is my conscience. That's what I am, a priori, for me. I don't have to bring evidence because a priori conclusions do not need evidence. Your logical conclusion. For example, you came home, I give this example, you found that food is ready on the table. You say, someone must have prepared this food here. Why? Because the food cannot be on the table, prepared, put on the plates, ready, warm, by itself. It's so simple, it's logical. So somebody can say, have you seen somebody setting the table? And no, how can you believe? Do you understand the logical fallacy in it? How can you believe that somebody must have made it? Must have made it. Do you understand the language? That's a logical conclusion. You don't have to prove it in an empirical sense. We have to understand this. In an empirical sense, you don't have to prove it. But in the logical conclusions, don't need empirical experience. It's very simple, but always missing, especially in the mouth of the certain people who speak on behalf of religion. God does this, God does this. Oh, so they copy paste the scripture, speak as if they are God. They are students, they are not teachers. The teacher said so, and I have to find out the reason to confirm it or not. Because a person came and said something, where they said, I'm a teacher, let me see. Yeah. You cannot, a false man may come to the class and pretend to be the teacher and tell everything. How would you know? You have to think whether it makes sense or not. We always say this, and we have to keep in mind, whatever the teacher, God, prophets, or the professors in the school, in the colleges, says, teaches you, yes, you are learning what you didn't know. Be careful with here. You are learning what you didn't know. But after you learn, what do? In fact, the learning means discovering what is in your potentiality. Potentiality is developing. For example, somebody says, I am learning how to ride a bike. It is within his potentiality, but he needs to discover it by exercise. Right? So human potentiality is the basis for everything. But the people say, no, God's guidance is the basis. God's guidance is a teacher. It helps you to discover what is within your potentiality, and you are learning it. If something is not within your potentiality, can anybody teach you that? Can you really be potentiality? Can you really be learning something from this teaching? It doesn't mean anything for you because there is no detectors taking it and developing it. Human potentiality looks like a seed. What is encoded in the seed? What is encoded in the seed? Only that things comes out into a form of a tree. You cannot get anything what is not encoded in the seed. Everything is perfectly planned. So simple. Just we have to be aware of what we are expected to do. Very simple. The belief system is very simple, but we make it hard because we think that I have to believe in something supernatural, metaphysical. How can I? Whatever the imaginations you use, this imagination cannot go beyond physical world. Imaginations, you cannot imagine and give a form to your imagination. As soon as you give a form, it is within the universe. Created form. Your dreams are created, your imaginations are created, your thoughts are created. But we are given the ability to make logical conclusions. That is what we are. That's our capacity. That's what is within our potentiality. What is left to us? Always the subject comes to free will. By using free will, we can discover what is within us, what is within potentiality. For example, if someone never attempts to learn how to ride a bicycle, potentially he is able to ride a bicycle, but never used his free will to exercise it. Can he ever ride a bicycle? Answer?
No.
No. Why? He's potentially able to. Why do you think he or she cannot ride a bicycle? Potentially able. Free will. To choose to practice it or not to practice it. We are free. When we learn it, we discover what is already within us. When we don't practice it, the potentiality dies away there. For example, the obvious example, apart from a human being themselves, objective, objective means outside of the world. As an object, you can observe. Look at see it. If you put it into certain conditions, it means it refers to human free will to use it. So if you put it in these certain conditions, whatever it has in its potentiality develops and becomes a tree. Whatever it, cherry tree or whatever, apricot tree, whatever. If you don't put it, what happens? Dies away. Now, so simple. But a tree doesn't have, the seed doesn't have the free will to do it. It's, when we apply this example to human being, you have to use your free will. It means sow yourself into the soil, water it, do exercise, practice it, exhort it. That's why in the Quran, what the Quran says is very important. In Arabic, I don't know if anybody understands. وَإِنْ لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. What human beings can benefit, can have it, nothing but only through their struggle, striving. It means exercise, using free will. So simple. I don't know, it seems to be people make a lot of complications and make it difficult and require you to believe blindly, have a faith, something like that. Belief matters are so simple. Any difficulty? No? Yes? Don't condition yourself intentionally to oppose an idea. Feel yourself free. You will understand what's right or what's wrong. Just use yourself freely. Okay? That was the first. The second one, don't lend an ear to your whims and fancies. We discussed this a lot last week. Actually, whims and fancies are not potential in our potential, how do you say, ingrained qualities, assumed, accepted, gained, adopted ideas, attitudes, habits because of not being careful what we are learning, what we are hearing, whether they are true or not, following the tradition, following the culture, following the narratives that you hear, following the civilization, or following your uncontrolled free will. Uncontrolled, what I mean by that? For example, I don't want to do that. Why? I don't want to do that. You don't use your human qualities and just decide about something. Say, I don't like it. Why? I don't like it. That's it. not because my inbuilt human nature doesn't like it. No, I don't want to, for example, do or accept an idea for any reason. Uncontrolled conclusions. These are the source of the problems. So we have to be whims. We have to be careful about whims and our fancies. Fancy, what does fancy mean? You know that fancy, and not real. Not real, artificial. Not according to your nature. Artificial acceptances. Okay. What is the third one? Who's going to tell? Third one, it says, we talked about first and second one a lot last week. So let's go to third one if you don't have any more comments or questions. The third one says, sorry?
Why is it in human nature to be drawn towards whims and fancies?
It is freedom. Not is it a possibility. For example, isn't that possibility that you do this or do that? For you go this way or this way. It is possibility. We cannot say why is it there. But what we understand, it is there. It is already there. Well, that's how I am. That's how I am made. I don't know. Whoever made me, go and ask him, why did he make me in this way? But what I know, I'm experiencing from my own being, that I'm set free to choose this way or this way. Whether I reason anything comes to me, whether it is legitimate or not. I don't want to make anybody feel offended, but now new fashion is to have a torn off knee in your trousers. Here. What do people do? They cut it. What? I thought, you are a human being. Come on, so why am I doing that? Use your free will. Do you want? Don't feel offended. That's an example. Why do you do that? Why do you cut your trousers and here or here on your upper part of your body? Your leg, how do you call it? Shin? How do you call this one? Not the shin, thigh. On your thigh, or you have to cut it.
Let's cool for the society.
Why? But it wasn't cool 6 months ago.
I know.
It's so obvious, artificial. You can question it. You are free. You have free will, or I have free will. I can question it. I can just go and go with the flow, follow the herd, like the herd, sheep in a herd. I'm free to do that.
So are whims and fancies that are not your own conclusion? Like, they have nothing to do with, knowing your own, like, true self, or is that what a whims and fancy? Because one can follow a whim or, let's say, fancy, and it's tough to give examples.
Fancy is better.
Okay. One can follow something that is imaginary, right? Fancy, right? And still acknowledge that it was given to them, that they are drawing some sort of like satisfaction from it. And that satisfaction is given to them.
Now, we should not confuse two things. If someone uses his free will and says that I am aware that to follow the fashion, whatever it is, or whatever the community offers me, whatever the culture presents to me, doesn't make sense for me. But for other weak points that human beings have, consciousness says I shouldn't do it. The best example is smoking. They know, I mean, the young people, they just they don't know what they are doing. They don't think. But afterwards, they know that it's harmful, but they still do it. Now, being aware that following this fancy is not natural to me. That's how I am not created for. I'm not created for to follow this, but I have the free will to put into practice or not. That's another side. I have the free will to put into practice or not. So some people say, okay, I am a high school student or middle school student. Everybody's trousers is torn off on the knee, right? If I wear a trouser nowadays, 6 months later it will change. They will start cutting it or putting something on it and sell. It is a matter of circulation of the money, consumption. Fashion is for consumption. That's why no one speaks against fashion. Maybe in favor of fashion they speak. If you follow fashion, every 6 months you have to buy a new one and contribute to the economy. They say it's good for the economy. But humanity is lost. Yet you can, those people who have the capital make money, that's correct. But we are losing our human capacities, we are losing our free will, and we will be just controlled by other people. And we will just follow the fashion and be slave of the civilization. And the administration will say, okay, everybody follows me like a shepherd. Shepherd is very happy if the sheep obey him. Can you imagine a sheep that doesn't obey? Shepherd will be in trouble. The administrators love the population to be like herd of a sheep, like a herd of sheep. It's easy to rule them, to control them, to get their money, whatever they satisfy themselves. Now, understanding is different from putting it into practice. But is there any relationship? Yes. If understanding is consciously done and really supported by evidence and also not become a habit is different. Habit, if you are addicted to something, it's because it may go beyond your free will, although it is curable but difficult. But this is how we are. So why is it so? Why the creation is realized in this way? The creator is showing that is my order. If you do something from the beginning without using your free will and just follow it, it becomes a habit and then addiction. And then you cannot live it. So take precautions accordingly from the beginning. Don't get closer. Don't approach the wrong. What the Quran doesn't say, don't do wrong. Don't approach the wrong. That you are aware that it is wrong. Don't get closer to it. Why? Precaution. But we have to, if we want to, we have to use it. We have to choose it. Decide, free will. We always say, what do we say always? Free will. As far as my responsibility is concerned, free will, nothing else. Everything is given. Free will is also given, but it is left to me. My brain is not left to me, it works. I'm not making it work. My heart is not left to me. I'm not making it work. Yeah. Or I don't know. My senses are given to me, but they are not left to me. What is left to me? Only one human quality, which is the most essential, faith. So always, if you have a trouble about any subject that you cannot really solve, what you have to do is to refer to the free will. You will solve it. But you have to be aware that I have a conscious being. Don't deny. Don't say that I don't know. No, you know. You can know. Either you know or you can know. Okay. Now, shall we come to the community? The third one is don't expect anything from the members of the community that represents a certain idea. It's very practical, isn't it? If you want to know what Christianity is, if you want to know what, I don't know, atheism is, if you want to know what Islam is, don't look at the community. It's very simple. Because community has many members and every member has free will, different free will. They practice it in a different way. Never judge any ideology, any idea, religious, non-religious, whatever, or philosophical, by looking at the members of that, followers of that ideology. For example, if a man says something, and let's say he's a very heavy drinker, for example, he says something, but don't listen to him. He is mostly drunk. Why? He is drunk, but his being drunk is different from what he says. Make the difference. So always, if you want to understand any ideology or any philosophy or any religion, don't look at the community. Don't look at the community. Don't check the members of the community. Unfortunately, what happens? Those people, there are many people like this, especially in America. Many people, what they do, they look at the Muslim community. If they have good friends, nice people, because of these members are nice, it happened to be nice, and he becomes closer to their religious affiliation. If he doesn't have a certain belief system for himself, he says, okay, I want to become a Muslim as well. That frightens me a lot. Why? Because these friends are not going to be his friends forever. He goes into the community, finds another nasty people, other nasty people there. He becomes disappointed and says, no, it was misleading. I didn't know that this is a corrupt community. Bye-bye. Do you understand? Now the America, you know that the people get excited and become a Muslim, embrace Islam, and then leave it. Many examples I know, or maybe you may know some. I know many examples. Why? Because they came, or they claimed that they believed in Islam because of the membership of the community, but they didn't know what Islam is. So we have to learn the ideology, whatever is presented to us. Don't look at the man who presents it to you. There is a famous saying. There is a famous saying in the Bible which is used by the Christian community a lot. And it is referred to Jesus, and Jesus is reported to have said that a tree is known by its fruit. Have you heard of it? No? Oh. A tree is known through its fruit. When you look at the tree, you don't know, but when you see the fruit, it is a plum tree, it is an, I don't know, apricot tree or apple tree, whatever. You know that from. Now, it is applied wrongly to the community. That is wrong. But if a person says, whether I believe, for example, uses the language, I believe that I shouldn't smoke, but it smokes. What happened? He's claiming to believe that smoking is not good, unhealthy, or a harmful thing to do. And this claim to believe is false or weak. That's what you can see. You don't know the people's belief, do you? Can you know what people have in their mind, in their heart, in their feeling? No. What you do, you look at action. Now, it is a personal relationship, not to judge about an ideology, about a religious, if you like, doctrine or whatever system. It is just personal. For example, if a person says he might have done something wrong, okay, the judge says, okay, why did you do it? No, I didn't intend to do it. Just your intention, your thought, your belief. I believe it is really wrong. No one should do it, and including me too. What does the judge look at?
The action.
Sorry?
The action.
Reaction?
Action.
Actions, yeah. According to that. So it means we cannot judge about anybody, and we can look at the action, but it doesn't mean that how you should learn about a religion. Yeah. Learning what the nature of religion is, go and study the religion, nothing to do with the community who claim to follow it. It's separated. Unfortunately, it is all missed among the people. Muslim community, what do? They organize lots of activities to show that they are good people. But it's not the way of presenting what Islam is. Yes, you have to be acting according to your belief. That is correct, but your starting point is wrong. Your starting point is presenting the action. You cannot really present the action, but by presenting the action, you cannot really present religion itself. You have to present the fundamental teachings of religion itself. And then accordingly, you should ask, that's your choice. You may not, that's you. Yeah, that's me. But you have to present Islam. But you may represent Islam, you may not represent Islam. That's your responsibility. Don't confuse your responsibility with the responsibility of Islam itself. Do you understand the difference? No. Okay. If you want to present Islam, present ideology. Well, what Islam says, right? But you have the free will to represent what you claim as a Muslim, what you say that I am a Muslim, according to the teachings of Islam or not. That is your personal responsibility. You may do it, you may not do it. That's up to you. You may do it, you may not do it. That's up to you. I think it's difficult. It's very difficult. Yeah.
What about the hadith that goes Muhammad Sallallahu it's like the walking, talking Quran, and we should follow his example. Like with the example of learning Salah.
When you said we, who's we?
No, there's I believe two hadith that one of the regarding prayer.
Who is we?
We the Muslims.
What Muslims means nothing.
Oh.
I guess the believers of the book.
Okay, it is up to the person free will, the person's free will to represent it or not to represent it. Of course, what you do, you are expected to represent it correctly, but you may not. But a first responsibility is what? To understand the religion for yourself, to make it accessible, acceptable for yourself, get your own evidences and present Islam with your evidence. Present Islam with your evidence. After the second stage is whether you have the free will, you may represent what Islam says, you may not represent what Islam says. That is your responsibility. It doesn't mean that, doesn't matter. No, it is your responsibility. But present Islam as it is first. What is missing there? For example, in the Hadith and the Quran, presenting this subject says you are expected to represent what you believe. Choose to represent it exactly what you believe. But you are free to do that. That's why the Quran asks, take your own responsibility to whether I am really representing Islam correctly or not. That is your personal responsibility. That's why Quran warns you that, look, watch out for your free will, whether you will represent it or misrepresent it. Misrepresent Islam. So it encourages that you shouldn't represent Islam. But when you present Islam to others, it is first stage comes into discussion now. You have to know why you are a Muslim. You have to get your evidence, your reasoning, what convinced you to become a Muslim, and present this evidence to the people. Islam is this. So we should not confuse between Islam and Muslims. Islam must be presented as it is. Muslims are human beings. They have free will. They may represent it. They may not represent it. Right? Encouragement in the Quran and the Hadith saying, we take it for granted that it is a long subject. Prophet encourages the Muslims in certain matters and non-Muslims in another matter. Muslims are expected to learn the Quran, practice it, but non-Muslims in the relationship of the Prophet with other groups of the people to have a contract between them, and according to the treaty, they have to obey the treaty. Right? He expects other non-Muslim group to follow the rules or the articles of the treaty. When it comes to Muslim, those people say, I am a Muslim, he says, don't assign shirk to God. It means be careful. You may replace God with something else. Be careful. But he doesn't say don't assign shirk to treaty. How do you say the parts of the treaty? Is there any word for it? The Medina community and another tribe makes a peace treaty, pact between this. So that part, he doesn't say don't commit shirk. What does it say? Be careful with this. No, be careful not to break the rules of the treaty. Do you understand? The treaty is you shouldn't attack me, I shouldn't attack you. There's a difference. So we have to be very careful to make the distinction between a religion or an ideology and the followers of religion or followers of the ideology. You have to be careful. Don't say, for example, people nowadays, what they say, if they cannot really disqualify a person in the political arena, what happens? If they cannot really disqualify the person, what do? They make a trick, they in a trap. And either real or assumed misconduct, they say, don't listen to this man because he is not an, how do you say, an honorable man.
Honest.
Sorry?
Honest.
That is not an honest man, yeah, because he did something. For example, let me give a very impartial example. I've seen him stealing something from the store. But you may be right. But what this person is presenting to you, the ideology, is it right or wrong? Sorry?
I don't know.
No, but you have to listen to the ideology. Don't look at the person, whether he practiced in practical life, he does it or not. That's something else. That's a second. As far as we are concerned, we have to look at the ideology. What does he say?
Okay. That's fine. I wanted to. So you said something about ideology versus following an ideology, and how can you present an ideology?
Not versus
Okay.
stage.
Well, there's
So
an
we
idea.
should, as far as we are concerned, we shouldn't judge a person's ideology according to his behavior.
Okay.
That's not versus.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't judge a person. Yeah, totally. So what I was trying to get at is, how can one present an ideology if without following it yourself? So
That is this person's weakness. Who is perfect in this world?
no, because
seems to be open. Oh, USB, huh? Let's do that and see. Now it must be working. I don't know how it stops. Okay, but it's better to check always.
Okay, so what we're saying is that the first observation is you look at people's action, but that's as far as you can get because you cannot really.
Why are you interested in people's action? Are you a judge?
No.
But why are you interested in people's action?
We're talking about community, right?
Institutional unit, which is called court. Which is called court. In the court, there is a judge, there are witnesses, and the judge has to look at the action only. This is a great wisdom that's Islamic, established everywhere actually. Why? Because no one can judge about people's ideologies, belief system, knowledge.
Oh, you're talking about the court system.
That's court system.
Oh, like religious court system.
Doesn't matter, but that is Islamic principle. But at the same time, in secular court systems, also they follow this. They are expected to follow it. Now, nowadays, if you have a name which is called Muhammad or something, if you go to the court, you are taken as a terrorist. That is prejudice. That is being judgmental about people. Look at my action. You can look at my action only. Yeah. Why is it important? Because we shouldn't confuse action and belief. But as far as the personal responsibility is concerned, as Isra said, Sarah said, I am expected to use my free will to put my belief into my practical life. That is what I am expected to do. That is why Quran and Prophet encourages me to be consistent with your belief system. Right? It means why? Quran and the Prophet guides people as far as their free will area is concerned. Use your free will in this way or in another way. For example, the Quran keeps saying, use your reason. It means you have free will to use your reason or not. It means free will. Quran and the teachings of the Prophet, we always say that they are almost all about psychological analysis of human behavior. Human behavior. But psychological analysis. Why do you do that? You shouldn't do that. Convince yourself with this evidence. I am bringing you the evidence to you. Addressing to human. Sorry?
Psyche.
Sorry?
Psyche.
What?
Psyche.
Human psyche.
Free will. Yeah. But by educating the human psyche, by addressing the free will. Why? Free will is referred to what? I am free to use my abilities or I am not. For example, aren't you free to learn how to ride a bike or not? And if it is necessary, with a very coarse example, Quran says, for example, if it is useful for you to learn how to ride, Quran says, learn how to ride. Because you are free to learn or not to learn how to ride a bicycle. Do you get it? Because we don't understand that as if Quran is full of commands or something. No, Quran is just advice, full of advice to human beings. How to use their free will. So simple. So take it for yourself as a guide. Guide means for your free will. When the Quran says these are the evidence this is the evidence for the existence of the hereafter, or God's qualities, or the existence of God, etc. It means that offer to you. It is an offer to you to take notice of this by using your free will. So simple. So simple. There's nothing complicated. Now, as far as our subject is concerned, if you want to understand a religion, we shouldn't expect the community to represent this religion at all. Forget about the community. So we should understand that Jesus is saying that the tree is known by its fruit is personal training, personal responsibility. So if you say that I am an apricot tree, and you have to use your free will to show the apricot on your branches in your action. That is your personal responsibility. But what we are talking here, and we have to be very careful to make this distinction, if you want to understand Judaism, you don't need to go to Jerusalem nowadays or Israel. No. Go and look at the sources as much as possible, investigate where they are reasonable sources, reliable sources or not, and study what Moses taught people, whether it makes sense or not, decide accordingly. But unfortunately, what the people do, that they say that they embrace Islam, the second day they want to go to Saudi Arabia. What? What is it to do with it? You know, I'm going to live in a Muslim community. Okay, but don't say that I am going to learn Islam from people's behavior. But of course, there are opportunities there. Yep. So I will practice these opportunities by using the opportunities more than here. It's okay. For example, if you want to learn a language, German, I mean, it's better for you to go to Germany and see how the people are using. But if a person, a German man, doesn't use the German language grammatically correct, don't say that German language is not grammatically consistent, because I saw a German man is speaking German language wrong. You see what I mean? But the language is different from how the people speak. But that may give you an opportunity that is different. But you shouldn't judge German language according to how the people speak in the street. So the worst thing is to go to Arabic-speaking communities to learn Arabic in order to understand the Quran. It's a very strange thing. But the people who speak Arabic nowadays never speak Quranic language at all. They don't have any Quranic concepts. You have to study independently from the community how they speak. It's not Arabic. It's yes, modern Arabic, if you say. People speak in this way. But the Quran's language is completely different from what the people speak now. It's Arabic. It's completely different. The Quran is its own concepts. Completely different what the people speak. So we should be careful. That's what we learn from here. Okay? This is the third principle in order to search for the truth. Now, shall we read the following paragraph? Go to the fourth and the following principles to learn about the truth. Okay. No objection.
In addition, you should purify the mirror of your heart from childish attitudes and enmity, both of which tend to searching for and taking shelter in pretexts. In addition, you should purify the mirror of your heart from childish attitudes and enmity, both of which tend to searching for and taking shelter in pretexts. Also, do not look through the eyes of the customer who sees only defects and failings. Do not look through the eyes of the customer who sees only defects and failings. Furthermore, when you weigh accurately, compare correctly. When you weigh accurately, compare correctly. What is more, take for evidence and guidance the shining light of truth that comprises all the signposts along your way. Take for evidence and guidance the shining light of truth that comprises all the signposts along your way, so that you can dispel the darkness of groundless doubts and whims that may appear. So that you can dispel the darkness of groundless doubts and whims that may appear. Finally, listen with an attentive, careful ear, and do not object before my words are finished. Listen with an attentive, careful ear, and do not object before my words are finished. All that I will utter amounts only to a sentence. When I have said all of it, you can voice your objections if you have any.
I didn't notice that the time is 12:39. So I think we should study this paragraph next week. Again, next week we are here, Saturday. Wednesday, there's no Wednesday class. And the following Wednesdays, we will follow at NYU. But Saturdays during the winter break, we will have it here. Thank you. We have to stop and pray immediately if you have time to pray. Otherwise, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, we finished. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Akhir da'wahum alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. بحرمة الشيخ